You felt it before. That sting in your chest when someone talks over you. That knot in your stomach when your ideas are dismissed. That burning in your throat when you swallow your words yet again, but you push it down. Convince yourself it's nothing. Tell yourself you're overthinking. So you smile, nod, and carry on. You've gotten so good at it that you don't even notice what's happening anymore. But I see it clearly. They're disrespecting you right in front of your face. And the most terrifying part? You've become so accustomed to it that you think this is normal. This is what respect looks like. This is what you deserve. This is an invisible wound that bleeds silently every day while you maintain relationships that slowly drain your soul. It's not the screaming match or the obvious betrayal. Those are too easy to identify. What I'm talking about is much more insidious, much more dangerous, because it hides behind moments so small, so normalized, that you've been trained to ignore them. It's when someone consistently speaks over you as if your words carry no weight. It's when your boundaries are treated as flexible suggestions while theirs are respected as immovable law. It's when your time can be wasted without consequence, but theirs is treated as precious gold. It's when your no requires a 5-paragraph explanation, while their no stands complete without justification. It's when your achievements are footnotes, but theirs are headlines. Carl Jung wrote, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." And he was right, but not for the reasons you might think. The terror doesn't come from facing your flaws. It comes from realizing your value. Because once you truly accept yourself, your worth, your dignity, your right to exist fully in this world, you can no longer tolerate the disrespect you've normalized for years. The masks come off. The excuses evaporate. The justifications crumble. And you're forced to confront a truth that will change everything. You have been complicit in your own diminishment. The real question isn't why others disrespect you. The real question, the one that will keep you awake tonight, is why you've allowed it to become your normal, your baseline, your home. This pattern didn't materialize overnight. It began long ago, perhaps in childhood, when you learned that keeping peace at any price was better than facing conflict. When you discovered that your worth wasn't inherent, but tied to how useful you could be to others. When you realized that being liked was easier, safer, more comfortable than being respected. The wound began there, and year after year, interaction after interaction, it deepened until disrespect became your native language. Like a frog in slowly heating water, you adjusted to the rising temperature of disrespect, making accommodations, finding justifications, until what should have been intolerable began to feel like home. You see, there's a fundamental difference between being kind and being a doormat, a distinction that most never learn to recognize. Kindness comes from strength, from abundance, from choice. Being a doormat comes from fear, from scarcity, from the desperation to belong. Which one are you operating from? Be honest with yourself. Most people never dare to ask themselves this question. They move through life in a fog of confusion, wondering why they feel hollow inside, why anxiety follows them like a shadow, why their relationships always feel imbalanced. They don't realize they're caught in what psychologists call learned helplessness, the conditioned belief that you have no control over your situation, that the disrespect you endure is just how things are. But this submissive state isn't your natural condition. It's a wound that was inflicted upon you, not your identity. And wounds, no matter how deep, can heal. The shadow work, the confrontation with the darkest parts of yourself, begins with a simple but brutal acknowledgement. No one can disrespect you without your permission. Let that sink in. Feel the weight of that truth. Every time you swallow your words to keep a false peace, every time you overextend yourself to prove your worth to those who haven't earned the right to witness it. Every time you accept hollow explanations instead of demanding meaningful change, you are signing the permission slip that allows others to diminish you. You become complicit in your own emotional execution. Your inner demons whisper that you don't deserve better, that rocking the boat might leave you abandoned, that demanding respect might cost you connection. They remind you of every time you stood up for yourself and lost something, every time you voiced your truth and were punished for it. And so you stay in the familiar prison of disrespect, diminished but comfortable, resentful but secure, dying inside but socially acceptable. The suffering that comes from this buried anger, from suppressed authenticity, doesn't simply disappear when you pretend everything is fine. It transforms. It becomes depression that clouds your days. It becomes addiction that numbs your nights. It becomes rage that erupts at those who don't deserve it. Your body keeps the score, even when your mind refuses to acknowledge the game being played. So how do you break this cycle of accepted disrespect? It starts with detachment, not the cold, distant kind that builds walls, but the clear-eyed sobriety that allows you to see interactions as they truly are, without the distorting lens of your need for approval. When someone disrespects you, when they speak over you, dismiss your ideas, violate your boundaries, don't react immediately with your habitual pattern of accommodation. Instead, create space between stimulus and response. Breathe, feel the discomfort rise in your body, and resist the urge to immediately dissolve it. Observe what's happening without emotional clouding. This pause is powerful because it interrupts the automatic program that has been running your life. It puts you back in the position of chooser rather than reactor. And sometimes, in that space of conscious choice, the most powerful response available to you is silence. Not the awkward silence of someone who doesn't know what to say, not the fearful silence of someone afraid to speak, but the weighted, intentional silence of someone who sees clearly and chooses not to engage. This kind of silence carries a message more powerful than any words you could speak. I see what's happening here, and I don't accept it. It communicates boundaries without justification, strength without aggression, dignity without drama. In that moment of conscious silence, when you refuse to play the role that's been assigned to you in the drama of your disrespect, you begin your transformation. You reclaim your power, not by trying to dominate others, but by simply refusing to be dominated. The next step is to establish clear, unambiguous boundaries, not gentle suggestions that can be ignored, but non-negotiable lines that define precisely how you will and will not be treated by those who wish to remain in your life. These boundaries aren't about controlling others. They're about honoring yourself enough to define the conditions under which you'll engage. They might sound like, I don't accept being interrupted when I'm speaking. My time is valuable and requires the same respect I give to yours. I expect the same consideration I consistently offer others. But here's the critical part. Boundaries without consequences are just wishes whispered into the wind. You must be willing to enforce these boundaries with consistent action, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it risks relationships you value. The temporary discomfort of enforcement is nothing compared to the chronic pain of violation, because the alternative is far more painful. A life sentence of quiet desperation, of accumulated resentments that poison your soul from within, of a self-respect that slowly bleeds out until you can no longer remember who you were meant to be. The price of continued submission is your very life force, paid in installments, so small you barely notice until the account is empty. Some people will resist your evolution with everything they have. They've grown comfortable with the old you, the one who absorbed disrespect with a smile, the one who made yourself small so they could feel big. They'll call you selfish when you're simply being self-full. They'll call you cold when you're simply being clear. Their resistance isn't your problem to solve. It's confirmation that you're growing beyond the cage they helped build around you. This is where self-mastery becomes essential. The ability to feel the fear of rejection rising in your chest, the anxiety of conflict tightening your throat, and move forward anyway. It's standing in the fire of your own transformation without retreating to the familiar comfort of your chains. This is your personal rebirth, the phoenix moment when you rise from the ashes of who you were trained to be, not as someone new, but as who you were always meant to be before the world taught you to accept less. This version of you, the authentic one, will not be universally liked or understood, but they will be respected, because respect is not primarily earned through external achievements. It's commanded through how you carry yourself in this world, how you honor your own truth, even when it's inconvenient. Your purpose on this earth isn't to be universally liked, to be palatable to every palate. Your purpose is to be deeply, unapologetically, authentically yourself. Even if that means being disliked by some, even if that means being misunderstood by many. As you practice this new way of being, as you inhabit your power day by day, something remarkable begins to happen. The chronic disrespect that once surrounded you like a fog begins to fall away. Not because others have suddenly become more enlightened, but because you have changed at the most fundamental level. You no longer carry yourself as someone available for mistreatment. You no longer radiate the energy of someone desperate for approval at any cost. You stand differently, grounded in your worth. You speak differently, rooted in your truth. You love differently, from wholeness rather than lack. And the world responds differently to this new embodiment of your essence. Those who cannot respect your evolution, those who preferred the version of you they could control, they will fall away from your life. Let them go. Their departure isn't a loss to mourn, but a necessary clearing, making room for connections that reflect your worth, for people who honor your boundaries without resentment. This journey isn't about revenge against those who disrespected you. It's about the sweetest revenge of all, a life fully lived on your own terms, a presence so grounded in authentic power that disrespect simply finds no purchase. So I ask you now, how much longer will you tolerate what diminishes you? How many more days of your one wild and precious life will you sacrifice at the altar of false peace? Because here's the truth that will change everything. The disrespect stops when you decide it stops. Not gradually, not eventually, not tomorrow when you've gathered more courage, but now, in this moment. The accumulated pain you've carried from years of being disrespected can be alchemized into the very foundation of your strength. But transformation doesn't happen automatically or through wishful thinking. It happens only if you choose it with every fiber of your being. Only if you commit to it even when it's excruciating. Not with brittle aggression born of insecurity, but with the quiet, unshakable certainty of someone who has finally remembered their worth. Understand this. This isn't about becoming hard or cold or emotionally unavailable. It's not about building walls or nursing grudges. It's about becoming whole. And wholeness naturally commands respect without demanding it. The person who knows their worth doesn't need to announce it. Their worth announces itself through how they move through the world. If these words are cutting through your defenses, if you feel something ancient and powerful stirring within you, then it's time. Time to end the generational cycle of accepted disrespect. Time to reclaim your power from all the places you've unconsciously surrendered it. Time to build a life where respect isn't something you pathetically beg for, but something that naturally surrounds you because it radiates from the core of who you've become. You'll begin to notice moments of disrespect that once slipped past your awareness, comments that diminish you, interruptions that silence you. But instead of swallowing them down, you'll feel something stirring in your chest. Not the frantic anxiety of confrontation, but the steady heat of appropriate anger. The kind that says, "This far and no further." And in these moments, you'll have a choice that wasn't available before. To speak your truth without aggression, but with unshakable clarity. "I wasn't finished speaking." That comment was dismissive. Simple statements that may feel foreign on your tongue at first, but will grow more natural with each utterance. Statements that don't ask for respect, but assume it as your baseline. Some relationships will not survive this transformation. Some people are so invested in the version of you that accommodates their disrespect that they cannot adjust to this new reality. Watch carefully as they reveal themselves, not through their words, but through their actions when confronted with your boundaries. Those who truly care for you will navigate the initial awkwardness and rise to meet you in this new dynamic. Those who were merely exploiting your tendency to accept less will find reasons to distance themselves. Let them go. Their departure is not your failure, but your liberation, concrete evidence that you are no longer willing to trade your dignity for connection. As you continue on this path, you'll discover something surprising. True respect doesn't require constant vigilance or aggressive enforcement. It becomes a natural extension of how you carry yourself. The person who knows their worth doesn't need to defend it against every perceived slight. There's a quiet confidence that emanates from them, a certainty that doesn't need external validation. You'll find yourself responding differently to potential disrespect, not from a place of triggered wounding, but from a place of centered knowing. Sometimes with firm correction, sometimes with compassionate understanding, sometimes with simple disengagement, but always from choice rather than compulsion. The ultimate freedom comes when respect is no longer something you need to chase or earn or beg for. It's simply the natural consequence of how you've learned to respect yourself. The external validation that once seemed so crucial becomes increasingly irrelevant as you develop an unshakable internal reference point. You'll still face moments of disrespect in this imperfect world, but these moments will no longer define you or determine your worth. They'll simply be information about the person delivering them, about their limitations, their wounds, and you'll be able to see this clearly without taking it personally, without absorbing it as truth about who you are. The question isn't whether you're capable of this transformation. You are. The fire of your worth has never been extinguished, only covered. The question is whether you're willing to remove what obscures it, to fan the flames until they can no longer be ignored by you or by anyone in your presence. The question is whether you're ready to stop accepting crumbs and start claiming the feast that has always been your birthright. Ready to stop dimming your light to make others comfortable in their darkness. The only permission you've ever needed was your own, and that permission is yours to give right now with this breath. Welcome home to yourself. This is where true respect begins.